on our way to the second worst crash of capitalism in its entire history.
So on that depressing note, let's get to some possible answers. You founded a nonprofit called Democracy at Work, designed to advocate for worker-owned businesses and co-ops. And I get that will solve some of the problems. For example, if workers own their own factory, they're not going to vote to send their jobs to China. But would it still, isn't it possible that a worker-owned factory would still vote to maybe pollute a river to make a bunch of profit? Would workplace democracy stop that kind of exploitation?
I think so. I think the reason is also very clear to see. Nowadays, when you're discussing a new technology that might pollute the air or the water, the decision is made by the major shareholders and the board of directors, a tiny group of people who typically live in gated communities in a lovely leafy residence far away from the factory or the office or the store that pollutes. So they can make the investment in the new technology and reap the profits, while the workers and the communities where the production facilities are located breathe the bad air, drink the bad water, and so on. If the workers who live and work and depend on the enterprise made the decisions, they wouldn't do it that often because they're the ones that breathe the air and drink the water. So they'd be much more sensitive to the real costs and not in the way we have it now. Let me give you even a bigger example.
Yeah.
The major reason why a tiny percent, the 1%, are as rich as they are is that they are mostly the major shareholders and the boards of directors of big companies. And here's something that'll come as a surprise to those who are watching. Those people take the profits that everybody in the workplace helps to produce and give the lion's share, here comes the surprise, to themselves, which is why they are this wealthy. And we shouldn't be surprised. We would probably do similar if we were in that situation. But let me tell you something. If you made all the workers democratically get together and decide how to distribute the wealth they've all together created, they would never give a handful of people more money than they know what to do with, while everybody else is worrying about sending their kid to college because they can't afford it. You'd have a change in the distribution of income and wealth that we like to talk about in the United States. But here's a concrete way to get that done, and the folks that run this society run away from it as fast as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. What about another pressing issue of our time, automation and technology? Sure, a factory owned by its workers might not elect to replace themselves with robots, but playing devil's advocate, is it really possible to fight technological advancements like that? I mean, not many have been able to do it. You've got the Amish, but they're pretty weird with their beards and such. And I don't know if you're proposing we all end up with the beards, but...
Not at all. I'm not in favor of beards, as you can see. Let me suggest to you a way of understanding this. Every technological invention, from time immemorial to the present, justified itself on the grounds that by this new machine, by this new gimmick, we could get more done with less effort, with less drudgery, with less drone-like work of people, less work for mother, less work for worker, and so on. And indeed, those innovations, all of them, had that potential. But when they are put into a capitalist economic system, here's where the problem arises. The people who put the technology in want to make profit out of it. So, for example, if a machine allows the workers to do twice as much as before, they fire half of the workforce. The remaining half works with the new machine, produces as much as before, but the company realizes a fantastic profit because it doesn't have to pay half the workers' wages, which they can keep for themselves. Nice story for the company, nice profit gain, but half the people are unemployed. Here's an alternative. Let every worker do half as much work as he or she did before. Let's run the working day 4 hours instead of 8. With a machine that does twice as much, 4 hours will get you just as much as the 8-hour day used to. The workers will have engaged an enormous amount of leisure to pay attention to their own development, to their families, to their communities. If we use technology that way, we would use it to help the mass of people enjoy a better life rather than a small percentage of the people enjoy a greater profit. The problem was never with technology. The problem was with the system that decides how to use that technology.
Yeah, absolutely. The benefits of technology are all going to, the time and the money is all going to a very tiny percent, as are the profits, the money. But what are the steps to getting to a place of workplace democracy? Does it need to happen at the governmental level, create a workplace democracy party? Or is this something you could see simply being accomplished by workers and, you can just leave the politicians off to the side doing their dastardly deeds alone somewhere?
Well, instead of hypothetically sketching for you how it might be done, let me tell you and your audience how it is in fact being done right now in the United Kingdom, where a political party, the Labour Party, captured by the Bernie Sanders of England, a guy named Jeremy Corbyn, here is their policy. Any business in England, if they win the election, this is the law as they will change it. Any business in England can continue as it is now. But if it decides to close, or if it decides to sell itself to another business, or if it decides to become a stock company by doing an initial public offering and so on, it will be required by the law to have a right of first refusal to sell the business to the workers in it. So it becomes a workers' co-op. And that way they see a transition happening quite quickly in which businesses that were run top-down hierarchical capitalist become instead worker co-ops. And if you're wondering, where will the workers get the money to buy the company? The Labour Party in England proposes that's where the government comes in. It will lend private enterprises, owned and operated democratically by workers, the money to pay back over time so that you can convert an economy into one in which the decisions are made by the workers themselves. Final point. If you want an economy to work for the people, you finally have to bite the bullet and put the people in charge. Co-ops are the way to do that. Staying with capitalism is the way to avoid doing it.
And it's not just the UK. There's examples in Spain and Italy, and I'm wondering if you have envisioned is there an upper limit? Like studies in sociology seem to show that there's an upper limit of the number of people who can work together as a true democracy. Is there an upper limit to the number of workers who could work together well in a democratic workplace?
There might be, but we haven't encountered it yet. Let me give you, again, two examples. The Mondragon Corporation in the north of Spain started in 1956 with a Catholic priest and 6 workers. Today, it is an enormous corporation. It's like a family of about 200 co-ops, and it employs 100,000 people. So here's a set of co-ops who solved the growth and size problem by kind of creating a federation inside a corporate shell of worker co-ops. So they've been very successful there and have grown in a way that would be the envy of most capitalist corporations looking back over the last half century. In Emilia-Romagna, a very important part of Italy, there's 40% of their economy in that part of Italy is worker co-ops in all fields of distribution, services, manufacturing. They've managed, without confederating them within a corporation, to become of all different sizes, small, medium, and large. So my guess is, using the experience of worker co-ops as they have existed and grown in recent decades will give us more than enough blueprints and models that we can interpret and adjust for the situation in the United States or any other country.
Well, absolutely. I think it'd be a great step forward. And thank you so much, Professor Wolf, for joining me. I recommend